Okay, some people asked me to do first impressions of the Retroid Pocket 3, so I'm happy to do that for you. Can't really call it a review because, I've only been playing with it for a few days. We'll start just talking about the general overall build quality. I've been quite impressed with it, especially if we compare it to something like this older retro game handheld. Uh, the build of the Retroid Pocket 3 feels professional. When I've had it out over the last few days, people ask me if it was a Nintendo Switch. It has that look. It feels like a well-made device, professionally designed and put together. I have the package of the replacement buttons. I haven't felt the need to use it. I'm okay with these dome switches. I found them to be comfortable. The sticks feel nice. They've got a good click to them. I just don't feel a need, at least not at this point, to go through the trouble of opening the device up just to switch out the buttons because I think they're fine. I've also been impressed with the screen. I think the quality of the screen is great. Nice resolution, good color accuracy, nice brightness. And of course, speaking of the brightness, I know there's been some discussion that there's a dimming issue. If I go all the way bright, go down low, I don't get any flickering. Now, the transition at the lowest end, it isn't necessarily smooth. It does seem to have a few steps at the bottom end, but there's no flickering once you adjust it. And the screen does get quite bright, brighter than I have any need for it to be. So, screen, overall build quality, buttons, in all those ways, I'm quite satisfied with the Retro Pocket 3. Nothing to complain about. With that said, let's talk a little bit about the Retroid launcher itself. Retroid Pocket 3 does include its own launcher, and for the most part, it's functional. This is not something that I'm going to, give high praise for. It functions. It does what it needs to do. It is quite slow, as you can see, about scraping the artwork. Basically, it won't scrape games titles, or I haven't found a way to cause it to scrape the artwork until that game is on screen. But it works. If you don't want to deal with getting anything else, you've got a couple of different views. This view in particular, I wouldn't speak highly of because, again, unless the title is on screen, it's not going to try to download the artwork, which means unless you want to go through and click and wait over and over, not a fun way to use it. So the launcher is fine. It's good enough, but in my opinion, you're better off with some other launchers. Now, speaking about those alternative launchers, the one I found that I really like is Digesho. And I know other people have mentioned things like Reset Collection, which I've heard is great. But this one is free, so I was confident in giving it a try. And so far, I've really liked it. It has, you can find wallpapers. This wallpaper pack in particular, I really liked. Includes wallpapers for every system that I've thrown at it. The software itself, the launcher itself, is really great. It's got a lot of nice features. You get nice status updates about new things you've added. You've got widgets, so you can go there to just continue games you've played. You can set up RSS feeds. You can also link it to retro achievements, so that you can get achievements for all those retro games you're playing. You can see there's a lot of options you can add. You can add app shortcuts to anything you want. Got a highlight feed where it shows you like an overview of games you've played on different systems, new stuff, various things just to get you playing. It also has a random option, so you can just randomly throw yourself into a game. And of course, you can access all your other apps and your Android device settings. So this is the app that I've really found that I like. It scrapes very well. Depending on the game, you might have screenshots, title screen, box art, different things. Of course, you can pull up the details. pull up your achievements, and also it will load from GamesDB information about the game. So this is a launcher that I really like. If you have Retroid Pocket 2 Plus, or if you're getting Retroid Pocket 3, I say give it a try. But I'm sure what you're most interested in is how does it play games? And luckily the answer to that is very well. I won't waste time showing things like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, your 8-bit and your 16-bit systems. Just obviously those run fine. We'll start with the Game Boy. I know a lot of people are interested in Game Boy Advance. Let's hop into some F-Zero. It should be pretty easy to see that Retroid Pocket 3 handles Game Boy Advance games with no trouble at all. Manages 60 frames a second. I've got upscaling turned on. Other than that, I've not done anything to adjust settings or optimize it, but you're going to have no trouble at all playing any of your Game Boy Advance games. So let's check out something else. How about we take a look at PlayStation? We'll play one of my favorite games, Rage Racer. And with PlayStation, I do have high resolution mode turned on. I've got scaling and various filters to try to make the upscaled game look a little better.
Racers, start your engines and let's get it on. Three, two, one, go! The race is on. Show 'em what you've got. 3 laps to go.
You can see that even with all of the enhancements turned on, it's maintaining pretty close to 60 frames a second. I'm sure with some extra tweaks, it would easily maintain 60 frames per second. Next up, let's take a look at the Nintendo 64. Nintendo 64 does not have a lot of games that run at 60 frames per second, but one of the ones that does actually also happens to be F-Zero. And I am running Nintendo 64 with a rendering resolution of 1080p, and you can see that it's still super fast and silky smooth. Okay, so with those Nintendo systems out of the way, let's pop over and take a look at one that's very interesting to me, the Sega Saturn. I know it's kind of a pain to emulate the Saturn. It's always been very hard. Let's take a look at Guardian Heroes so we can see how it handles 2D games on Saturn. You can see that it's clearly handling Saturn at 60 frames per second with no slowdowns. So let's take a look at a 3D game. keep in mind, I do have this running at double native Saturn resolution. It looks like for this game, you may want to turn that down to 1x if you want 60 frames per second. Still, that's pretty good in my book. Another system that the Retroid Pocket handles great is the PSP. Almost any game I've tried here on this list, be it Burnout or Ridge Racer, Lumines, one of my favorite puzzle games, they'll run at double resolution with plenty of filters turned on to really make them look good. Let's take a look at how good the PlayStation Portable emulation is.
Is your car 3, 2, 1, go!
And this is with absolutely
3 laps to go.
every graphical enhancement turned on, double native resolution. You can see it runs absolutely flawlessly. And now, for the last system, and maybe the one I'm most impressed with, the Sega Dreamcast. Everything I've run on the Dreamcast has run great on the Retroid Pocket 3. Turn the volume down a bit on this one. Because it uses licensed music. Alright, here we are in Crazy Taxi. I've got widescreen hacks turned on, and all of the graphical settings like filtering are set as high as they'll go, and it's still running at a nice smooth 60 frames per second. Very rarely any dips at all. In fact, that's been my general experience with just about any Dreamcast game I've thrown at it. This is another one of my old favorites called Super Magnetic Neo. Again, widescreen hacks on, so it's actually rendering more than it normally would, and still very smooth. Unfortunately, where things get worse, systems like GameCube, you're wanting to play Animal Crossing, then you'll be okay. Animal Crossing using a European ROM is okay. It's not perfect, but it's certainly playable. However, if you wanted to play something like Mario Sunshine, you're not going to be so lucky. Even with the resolution pretty drastically lowered here, you can see that it's just barely chugging along. PlayStation 2, thanks to Aether, does a little bit better. If, for example, you wanted to play Kingdom Hearts 2 with the right hacks and settings, it's quite playable. A little slowdown here and there, but otherwise, not too bad. When I tried Final Fantasy X, it fared well also, and I've had good luck playing one of my old favorites called Frequency although the menus will run a little bit slow, and it slows down a bit when you first start up a level. The gameplay is actually quite smooth. You can see here some slowdown, but once the game really starts going, it'll be fine. Unfortunately, that's about where it ends. I've tried quite a few racing games, and all of them are very slow. You can see here the car loading screen is really slow. If you can manage to get everything selected and into the race,
the race is about to start. We're bringing you this race today, live from the park.
well, this is what it's like.
3.
You really just do not want to play this game on the Retroid Pocket 3 right now, unfortunately.
1.
Alright, so that's it for this video. Overall, I would say the system is great if you're wanting a PlayStation Portable replacement or a portable Dreamcast, and anything prior to those two will also run perfectly. If you want to play GameCube or PS2 or anything beyond that, then obviously I can't recommend it. But for me, I think just having really an improved PlayStation Portable and a portable Dreamcast that runs everything I throw at it at 60 frames per second is amazing. I'm going to do some more videos, actually do some longer plays of some games on the various systems. So if there's something you want to see how it runs, let me know. I'm happy to do that. Until then, thanks for watching and see you next time.